What thing?
You are sharp.
Advocate, I'm still waiting for the chairperson. I don't think he has logged in. Honorable.
So baby girl.
Chairperson.
So chairperson.
Chairperson, okay.
One frame.
Chairperson is okay. Honorable,
So baby girl.
you mind, ma'am? I don't know if
So
you are
chairperson.
able. Can you
One
just
frame.
do it landscape like we normally do it? Honorable,
So baby girl.
you mind, ma'am? I don't know if
So
you are
chairperson.
able. Can you just
One frame.
do it landscape like we normally do it? Honorable,
So baby girl.
you mind, ma'am? I don't know if
So
you are
chairperson.
able. Can you just do it landscape like we normally do it? Honorable,
So baby girl.
you mind, ma'am? I don't know if
So
you are
chairperson.
able. Can you just do it landscape like we normally do it? Honorable,
So baby girl.
you mind, ma'am? I don't know if
So
you are
chairperson.
able. Can you just do it landscape like we normally do it? Honorable,
So baby girl.
you mind, ma'am? I don't know if
So
you are
chairperson.
able. Can you just
One frame.
do it landscape like we normally do it? Honorable,
So baby girl.
you mind, ma'am? I don't know if you
So
are
chairperson.
able. Can you just do it landscape like we normally do it? Honorable,
So baby girl.
you mind, ma'am? I don't know if
So
you
chairperson.
are able. Can you
One frame.
do it landscape like we normally do it? Honorable,
So baby girl.
you mind, ma'am? I don't know if
So chairperson.
can you just do it landscape like we normally do it? Honorable,
So baby girl.
you mind, ma'am? I don't know if
So chairperson.
can you just do it
One frame.
Honorable,
So baby
you
girl.
mind, ma'am? I don't know if
So chairperson. One frame. So baby girl. One frame. Okay. One frame. So baby girl. One frame. One frame. So baby girl. One frame. Okay. One frame. So baby girl.
And bow to my left. I will then proceed to request delegates to observe a moment of silence for prayer or meditation. Thank you very much. Before we proceed, honorable delegates, I would like to remind you of the following. That the virtual sitting constitutes a sitting of the National Council of Provinces. That the place of the sitting is deemed to be Cape Town, where the seat of the National Council of Provinces is. Delegates in the virtual sitting enjoy the same powers and privileges that apply in a sitting of the National Council of Provinces. That for the purpose of the quorum, all delegates who are logged onto the virtual platform shall be considered present. That delegates must always switch on their videos, and that delegates should ensure that the microphones of their gadgets are muted and must always remain muted. And to ask delegates to please note that the interpretation facility is active. So let's note that. And that any delegate who wishes to speak must use the raise your hand function or raise your hand icon. Honorable delegates, in accordance with Council Rule 2471, there will be no notice of motion or motions without notice. We will then proceed to the question session. And I would like to take this opportunity to welcome the Minister of Basic Education, as well as the Minister of Higher Education, Science and Innovation. Further, I would like to make the following remarks. These are very, very important for noting that the time for reply by a minister to a question is 5 minutes. That only 4 supplementary questions are allowed per question. That a member who has asked the initial question would be the first to be afforded an opportunity to ask a supplementary question. That the time for asking supplementary question is 2 minutes. And that the time for reply to a supplementary question is 4 minutes. And lastly, that the supplementary question must emanate from the initial question. Having done that, I now call on the Honorable Minister of Basic Education to respond to question 98 asked by Honorable Ndongeni. Honorable Minister.
No, thank you very much, Chair. And also let me thank members of the NCOP. And my response, Chair, to the question about the quality of teaching and learning under COVID-19 is that for us to ensure that there's quality of learning and teaching, despite the enormous challenges that teachers face with reduced time and rotational timetable, we had to put a number of measures in place. Amongst others was to trim our curriculum to make sure that we have a comprehensive curriculum recovery framework, which then matches the times that are left with us. So we had to put plans in place to recover the lost time from the lockdown when it started, the shortening of the mid-year, but also we had to also make sure that we extend the year to the 15th of December to make sure that we can really claw back on the lost time. Again, to assist our teachers, we had, as I said earlier, we had a revised trimmed curriculum from grade R to 11. And the consideration was to make sure that we can match the curriculum to the time that we had. The DG had to convene week-on-week meetings with provinces to make sure that we are aligned and we understand what is happening and can at all times respond to the reality on the ground. And also we have to make sure that we work with our districts, with our circuits, to make sure that there's cohesion, there's coherence in the system, and we understand on an ongoing basis what we need to do to save the academic year. And that's what we had to put in place, Chair.
Thank you very much, Minister. We'll now move on to the first supplementary question by Honorable Ndongeni. Honorable Ndongeni.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Honorable Minister, for the comprehensive response to the question. Let me take this opportunity and thank the teachers specifically for the sacrifice and tremendous role they have played in preparing the students for assessment during this challenging year. Honorable Minister, how important is the role of teachers union, SGBs, and other stakeholders in ensuring that we emerge victorious when faced this difficulty like this pandemic? And what are the plans to recover the skills that the kids were not able to be taught in 2020? Thank you. Chair.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Member Ndongeni. I can't overstate the importance of teachers. Teachers are actually the education system. The system rests on their shoulders, and everything else that we can really benefit or lose, we lose it in the hands of teachers. They are very critical, but not only critical in terms of making sure that we have learning and teaching, but in just the system under general. For instance, Chair, under COVID-19, we had to even quickly get regulations in place to manage the situation, like how we deal with teacher comorbidities and many other challenges that for the first time we're confronted with. And our teacher unions were very magnanimous in many respects that we are able, with their support, to conclude the collective agreement 1 of 2020. They were able to assist us through their structures to monitor compliance in schools and advise us where things were going wrong. But more than anything, they were part of the trimming of the curriculum and also most of the decisions that were to take. So they're very key. Teachers have been very instrumental in the learning and teaching, in the management of the curriculum, but in the management of the sector. Same with governing bodies. We would not have survived the storm that confronted us had it not been of our parents. So your different school governing bodies were there also to make sure that they support the schools. They also advise the department, but they really, in terms of difficulties, were also able to mediate between the tensions that often arose between the department and teacher unions, and they were a very good stabilizing factor in between. But on the other hand, through resources and different ways, our school governing bodies assisted us to make sure that things work very well. So had it not been, as I say, of civil society, which was coordinated through the NCT, where at a time we would meet more than 200 NGOs virtually to manage the environment, which was very difficult, we would not have succeeded to open the schools and really save the academic year of 2020. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Minister. The second supplementary question comes from Honorable L.J. Porter from the Western Cape. Honorable Porter.
Good afternoon, Chair. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Young children in rural areas have suffered the most during lockdown. They have suffered in every way, including the area of teaching and learning. Most rural and township learners did not receive any teaching during the lockdown period, and rural areas experienced many challenges: transport, cold weather, lack of technology and devices, and lack of internet. I want to know, how have these learners caught up with learning when they eventually return to school? Furthermore, should there be a high failure rate in schools this year? What plans does the department have in place to accommodate those learners, especially grade 12s who have limited rewrite options? And what plans are in place to provide a buffer to those learners to ensure that they do not become dropouts? Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Indeed, I will agree with the member that our learners from different areas, not only rural areas, from your townships, your informal settlements, your farm areas, but even from affluent areas, it was just very difficult. Because it was even difficult, even for those communities which had access to your ICTs, to, for the first time, do what they've never done before, to teach on ICTs. They had not planned for that. They had not prepared for that. So it was just a very difficult situation that we found ourselves. As I said when I was responding to Member Ndongeni, we had to trim the curriculum. We had to work very close with our teacher unions and parents. We had to work with NGOs to work together to salvage the situation. In terms of failure rate, we have done all we could. We had asked parents to bring learners on time. Our teachers have been working dead out to make sure that we can recover the limited curriculum that we could recover, where some of the parts of the curriculum have been taken over to the next year. So those that we failed, we'll have to manage them the way we always manage failure rates. Your grade 12s, fortunately this year, the supplementary is not in March, it's in June, which means there's enough time to also assist and support those that are not performing very well. But I can assure you, Chair, from the reports of the monitoring visits that we have been making with the department, I've been getting reports that the class of 2020 was motivated beyond any other class we've experienced. So we're expecting good news, but if there are difficulties, we will help them to prepare for the June exams.
Thank you very much. The third supplementary question directed to the Minister is from Honorable S.B. Lihihi. Honorable Lihihi.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, if there is to be need no negative ramification on the quality of teaching and learning at MIS, the challenges that this year has brought us, then surely there needs to be cohesion between your department and the provincial education departments. Currently, there are mixed messages and responses around allowing grade 12 learners with COVID-19 to write exams. While the Department of Basic Education said it will make provisions, the Western Cape Education Department says no consultation was made and they cannot accommodate those learners unless they have been in 10-day isolation. The matric finals are around the corner. How do you plan to ensure that no matric learner is left behind and everyone afforded the opportunity to write? What measure will be put in place to accommodate those learners who were physically ill from COVID-19 and did not allocate preparation time whilst in recovery? Thank you, Chair.
Well, thank you very much, Honorable Minister.
No, thank you very much. The member is correct that for us as a sector, which is our policy, we work through and with provinces. The sector has concurrent functions, and for us to be effective, we have to make sure that at all times we're aligned. But there will be situations where, as the national department, we have to take decisions on our feet and not wait for consultations, especially if the welfare of children is involved. In this matter of exams, yes, indeed, we're taken. So there are no mixed messages. The initial position was that when children have been, or young learners have been identified with COVID-19, we will not allow them to write exams. But with lots of appeals that came from provinces and parents and everybody, as a minister, I had to think on my feet and quickly inform, not consult, inform my colleagues that I have taken a decision that in the best interest of children, we have to allow them to write. The Department of Health was very gracious, offered help and assistance where we had difficulties. And I can assure you, member, all learners who turned up, even those that were in isolation, we found places for them to write. Health has been assisting. Other teachers have been volunteering to monitor them. And also outsiders who have been trained on how to manage the environment, including doctors, had offered themselves that, please, this class of 2020 has suffered enough. There is no way you can turn back a learner who just presents a high temperature on the day of exams and say, go back. So all the learners are writing, Chair, and we get daily reports of the number of learners that are writing. The highest number was in the Free State of almost 11 kids, and they wrote. The second highest number was in the Eastern Cape, because there were children who were already in a quarantine site, so we're able to get them to write. So all learners have written. So the confusion, even in Western Cape, we put in measures to make sure that even learners in Western Cape write, because exams are a national competency. We cooperate with provinces, but we have the last word when it comes to exams.
Thank you very much, Minister. The fourth and the last supplementary question comes from Honorable A.B. Klute. Honorable Klute.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Minister. I also want to just send our best of wishes to the matrics, especially who are now writing their exams. Minister, you basically said that we had a tough year for learners and especially matrics. So considering tremendous time and work that were lost, especially for matrics, who are under pressure now to perform without hindrance and obstacles, do you believe that protests such as we saw at Brackenfell yesterday are good for the morale and preparations of matric learners? And would you support legislation that prohibits protests at schools?
Honorable Minister.
Chair, the member will agree with me. Protests around schools are just not very helpful, because if violence erupts, children could be just be standby or just be affected, even being far from the scene. I mean, if you looked at the scenes yesterday, there were tear gases in the environment where there are children. So we obviously would not support any violent protest in an area where there are children. If it's peaceful indeed, within the right. Oh, If indeed,
let's find out, Arnold.
if indeed people have the right to
Just a second.
protest.
The point of order
If
is
indeed people have
Just,
issues,
the members saying that the EFF was
yes,
violent.
just a minute.
No, my
Can't
point of
all
order.
talk at the same time. Arnold, you must await your turn.
If the shoe fits,
The person is that member saying that the EFF was violent.
Only then. So
Is that member of
let's
the
allow you to speak. What's your point of order?
Was violent?
What is your point of order?
There
was no violence by EFF there. There was no violence.
He was interfering now when I was raising a point of order.
No, that's a point of view, Honorable Member.
No, my point of order is this
await your turn.
from us saying that we were violent.
So I ruled that out of order. Please proceed, Minister.
Yeah, Chair. So I'm saying it is with people's rights to protest peacefully when they have issues, but we're saying when violence erupts when there are children, then it is quite problematic. So indeed, we will condemn any violence that will erupt in the environment where there are children. So what legislation we will propose? We won't propose any legislation, but we will really respect the constitutional right of people to say if they have issues, they can protest, but at all times, whoever is an antagonist and the protagonist have to make sure that the place is kept safe. That's my point, and thank you, Chair.
You must answer the question, who was violent?
Thank you very much,
Did you ask me a question, Wena?
We will now proceed to
the question was asked.
If you want to ask a question, you can ask me a question. Don't howl at me.
Order. We'll proceed to the next question. And the question is on violence in schools. And the question is raised by these Christians and is directed to the Minister of Basic Education. Honorable Minister.
I am trying to get.
The second question, question 92.
It's 92. Yeah, I'm 100 now. Just a second, Chair. Yeah.
Okay. We'll give you a few seconds.
Please, Chair. It's 92. I'm on 93. I don't know where's 92 now.
Question 92, Minister. 92, Minister.
It's on about violence in schools, is not so?
Violence in
it's 92. Okay.
92.
No, thank you very much, not 82. So, no, thank you very much, Chair. It's about violence in schools. And we're saying that the department does respond to violence in schools and other social ills through its program of care, support, teaching, and learning. We have a national school safety framework, which we are using to guide us. And it's mainly our response because we believe that violence is really part of the ecosystem that is there in the areas. And therefore, we rely on collaboration and partnership for more coordinated approaches against violence. And through partnership with different agencies, for instance, with vets, we run a reproductive health institute. So we really focus on harassment that happens in school, especially sexual harassment. But we also, within the framework, look at the culture of really respect for property that is being fostered and make sure that our children have the culture and respect peace. There are also protocols in place that enforce consequence management timelessly if there are incidents of violence. We have a quality learning and teaching campaign which works with communities to have school safety committees and run campaigns which encourage schools, for instance, and communities to work together. And in most instances, Chair, we encourage communities to protect schools from criminal elements because through them we find that schools are much more safer than schools are safer in the hands of communities as compared to any other measures we can put in place. Hence, we're investing most of our time in your schooling communities to protect schools as part of community assets.
Thank you very much. The first supplementary question will come from Honorable Christians. Honorable Christians.
Honorable Chair, if I may come in, please. It's Honorable Boshoff speaking. Honorable Christians are struggling with connection, so I will be doing the follow-up. Can I proceed?
No, please proceed. Please proceed.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to you, Minister. With reference to violence at schools and in schools and around schools, what trauma and counseling support is the department looking at in the future to be available to learners in violence-stricken areas? Programs that include debriefing in crises, situations, and in-depth therapy for those affected. And what does the department see as the role of the educators in stemming the scourge of violence in our schools? Thank you for that, Honourable Chair.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, we work with a number of NGOs to support us as a sector, NGOs like Teddy Bear and the rest of them, to help us with different ways of dealing with the different traumas that children experience, whether it be a sexual violation, or physical trauma, or other sorts of traumas. But we also work with social development, and ourselves as a department, we also have at district levels, we have our psychologists or our social workers who also becomes centers of reference when there are difficulties. But the most successful partnership we have in the area of violence, it's with local police stations, where different police stations will have trained officials who are able to work with children or to work with schools in different ways of how violence presents itself. So they will nominate a police officer who will be the first point of reference, and that police officer works with other agencies in the area to make sure that they can support schools. Whether it's break-ins, police help us to go and look for those goods which have been stolen. Whether it's gangsters, they help us investigate the source of the gangsters and work with us and related officers. So our biggest support and strength that we have is with the police. But teachers obviously are your first they have boreholes, they have water systems, they have tractors, they are able to supplement what they have. But ordinary boarding schools are just schools like other schools. After school, they go and sleep, and our responsibility as government and their parents is to make sure that they're looked after. Chair, I recently visited my own boarding school in Matati, and it's still the same thing. Those children don't go and work in gardens. The way was not working in gardens. Schools, from school fees or from the subsidy from the department, they have to look after the needs of the children without making them go work in the gardens. I thought, yeah, that's the situation, Chair.
Thank you very much. The third supplementary question comes from Honorable Ntrube. Ntrube.
No, thanks, Chair, for the opportunity to raise a question here. But first and foremost, Chair, I think it would have been really appropriate if the Minister of Basic Education would have actually condemned issues of alleged racism in Brackenfell High School in Cape Town, because it's a pending issue. She would have put the masses of our people into confidence that her department is really condemning whatever that has been happening in that school. My question, Chair, appreciating as well the response by the Minister, it is very encouraging to hear that there is a long-term plan and budgeted for improvement of the conditions of the schools. Honorable Minister, the learners from this school come from small and non-viable farm schools. Is it correct to assume that by transferring them to this school, they are getting better education opportunities? Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister.
No, thank you very much, Chair. It's logical that they are getting better education because, as I mentioned, a school with a very low number of learners, it's not able to get by law all the necessary facilities. I made an example of a school with 97 children from grade R to 7. And I said that school, the most you can give them is 4 teachers. There is no way 4 teachers can be able to look after all grades, because grade 1s, for instance, are not supposed to be left on their own. Then you have grade 12s, which have multiple subjects. So it is not only correct, it's rational, it's logical, that if you want to provide education to them, because a member said that they're unviable. So how do you say a school which is unviable will be able to provide good education? So it's not only fair, it's also rational. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. The last supplementary question, which is the fourth supplementary question, will come from Honorable H.S. Boshoff. Honorable Boshoff.
Thank you very much, Chair. Honorable Minister, we are 25 years down the line, and DBE is still struggling with infrastructural problems. It would appear as if there is just no care for our rural learners at these schools. We also know that you've closed down many of these non-viable schools and started the mega farm schools. But I can just give you one example of the Tabacheo boarding school. The water there is insufficient for the number of children that have been enrolled from the schools that have closed down, and this is creating a huge problem. What I would like to know from you, Minister, is when will you and your department once and for all put a national plan in place for these rural schools to catch up on the backlog of not only school and boarding infrastructure, but also the provision of water and sanitation that was found to be hugely lacking over the lockdown period and is still lacking. You can only visit, I can speak from experience in Mpumalanga, go down to the northern areas in Blinder and those places, and you will see these people and the schools do not have running water. Minister, will you therefore undertake to make sure that every learner in the country is taught at schools where the environment is conducive for them to be able to go to these rural schools. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Chair. And I can assure the member that the ruling party, it is a caring government. Its focus is to make sure that it remedies the ills of the past that it inherited, because the ruling party 23 years down the line is still dealing with the 300 years or more of apartheid and its legacy. So that's what it is. So the schools that we are dealing with, the lack of water, it's what the ruling party has inherited, not what it brought with it. Having said that, Chair, I can assure the member that the National School Plan is exactly meant to do that, to, on an ongoing basis, improve the conditions that the ruling party in the past 22 years has been dealing with from the 300 years of apartheid rule, which has created or left that legacy. So the school plan is meant for that. We have a plan, we have a commitment, we're working on it on a daily basis. We're not sleeping on our laurels, and can assure the member that that's what informs our infrastructure plans, and that's what we're working on. And also to remind the member that development is a journey. So I can't wake up here and say, yes, tomorrow I can say once and for all, schools are going to be ready. We've been working on that. It's a 300 years legacy. It's clear that in 22 years, it's not been easy to deal with it, but there is a commitment, member can assure you, there is a plan on an ongoing program. The DM every Friday meets all infrastructure implementing agencies to monitor the work, to support the work that is happening both at national and provincial work, because it is a process that we are seized with and we're committed to. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Minister. The next question is question 100. And this question is on ICT at centers of teaching and or learning. The question is being raised by Honorable M.E. Nchabele, and is directed to the Minister. Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Chair. And our response is that the Department of Basic Education has developed a comprehensive plan to roll out ICT to all schools, and the plan will adopt a phase-in approach, like in all other programs, because we can't do everything overnight. And we first prioritize schools of learners with special needs, because they're hard to teach schools which need lots of support. And I can assure you that we've done lots of work already in your special schools. The second priority to multi-grade schools, again, which are hard to teach, and that's where we're also developing or rolling out ICTs as well as farm schools. And thereafter, we then focus on quintile 1 and 3 schools in rural areas and in townships. And the last group that is going to benefit, but which we're also working with them, is quintiles 4 and 5. So we are working from the bottom and also making sure that the top part of the system or the privileged part of the system also begins to look after itself. As a department, we have partnered with departments of communication and digital technologies and the private sector, which is, for instance, rolling out virtual classes in the 76 districts where we work, but also all the different companies that are working in the space of ICTs have partnered with us. That's why we have already finished work in schools of learners with special needs. All 427 of them have already been fully equipped with ICTs as the first phase of the work that we're doing. So we're working with the Department of Communications, but also working with the private sector, including the resources that are there in provinces and also in the national department. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Minister. The first supplementary question comes from Honorable Nchabele. Honorable Nchabele.
Thanks, Chairperson. And thank you, Honorable Minister, for your response to the question. It is encouraging to see that there is a plan and that it is intended to start with disadvantaged schools. Does the Minister have an idea when this program will finally start. And when will this and finally, how will we be, and how much will it cost to implement this program?
Chair,
the ultimate
okay. Oh, sorry, Chair. Chair, everything equal with the support that we're enjoying from your ICT companies in the country, your post office, telecom, Vodacom, and all your cells, all of them were Intel, and all of them working with us. We hope that, and that's what we're working towards, that by the end of this current administration, we should have finalized the plans that we have at hand. The estimations that we've worked out with the private sector and everybody in what we call the ICT package and education gave us a figure of about 29 billion. That for us to finish this process adequately, we need to have about 30 billion to be able to do that. That's why I say funds permitting, capacity permitting, we should be able to do that. We are in some instances experiencing very serious setbacks where in some areas we find that a school has been fully kitted, everything's there. The next morning, the school has been broken into and all the equipment has been taken. So there are also major setbacks that we experience in the sector, but our plans, as I say, everything equal, should be up to the end of this term at the cost of about 30 billion.
Thank you very much, Minister. The second supplementary question comes from Honorable C. Labuskaghni. Honorable Labuskaghni.
Honorable Chair, I believe that Honorable Labuskaghni sent information through that I'll handle the question on my behalf.
Oh, okay. Please proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Minister, is it rational that 25 years after democracy, we still must ask questions about capacitating our public schools with the necessary technology to enable our learners to get the maximum experience of teaching and learning? Is it true? It is true that COVID-19 has fast-tracked the fourth industrial revolution in many countries, and that South Africa has been left far behind in terms of most basic teaching necessities. South African schools are still battling with basic needs such as ablution facilities, adequate water, overcrowded classrooms, pupil and teacher ratio that are too high, and no database of substitute teachers. It is no wonder that we cannot adequately provide information and communication solutions in our public schools. What partnership or agreement does the Department of Education, Science and Technology have with Square Kilometre Array in the Northern Cape to increase the bandwidth and internet connection for especially schools in rural communities? Furthermore, what are the plans to ensure that South African schools become more innovative and make a paradigm shift in assisting children in rural communities facing possible future pandemics? Would the department commit to ensuring that schools in rural areas and elsewhere are provided with smart boards, internet connection, and remote learning with partnership schools? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister.
No, thank you very much, Chair. Indeed, ICTs, it's not only a question of it being rational, it's necessary and it is important. And that's why, Chair, we're prioritizing. The challenges about the sector are well known, are public, so I don't have to repeat them, that yes, indeed, we continue to experience challenges in terms of our basic facilities, your ablution, your water, because if there are no water provisions in a community, in a rural area, there won't be reliable water provision in schools. So schools, the responsibility of the department starts at the gate. And if there's no water outside the gate, the school is just a victim like all those communities. So I really don't want to get into that because indeed it's a reality that in areas where water is scarce as a sector will also be negatively affected. So it's not the making of the Department of Education. And I don't want to go back to say, yes, 22 years compared to 300 years. It is difficult to eradicate a deliberate policy that was meant to disadvantage people and try to reverse it. And as we can see from the work, commitment we're extremely committed. If you read every manifesto of the ruling party will tell you our priority and our commitment is around the poor. The poor don't only live in rural areas. Actually, the majority of our kids are in your urban township schools, equally negatively affected. They're in your informal settlements, they're in your farming communities. The majority of our learners are in urban areas, and they are equally affected. And that's why our focus, in addition to rural, is also the poor wherever they are. But we are committed, so you're quite right, it's not only rational, it's necessary and important, and that's why we're prioritizing it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. The third supplementary question comes from Honorable S. Mfaela. Honorable Mfaela.
Yes, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Members, Honorable Madam Minister. I'm partly covered by your response on the previous question, but my question was in the light of the fact that in 2019, Madam Minister, a number of schools experienced a zero metric pass rate due to schools having poor infrastructure, sanitation, no access to water, or even textbook. Whether any progress has been made to improve that situation, and if the minister and the head department have any mechanism put in place to overturn the state of public education system, especially in rural schools, and to fulfill its constitutional mandate of providing equal basic education. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mfaela. Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, ngokomthetho nje, by law, provinces are supposed to report to me quarterly on schools that performed below the national average, which they always do. That's how we monitor. People who have to tend the fortunes of those schools are provinces and districts. All we do, Tina, is to support them. But I can assure you, Member Mfaela, that I also personally visit these schools to check what the issues are. And amongst the majority, it has nothing to do with infrastructure, with books not arriving. It's just schools which are badly run, or schools which are, and that's why we're rationalizing most of them, is schools which are not viable. Most of the schools which would have gotten a zero, when you go there, that school was not supposed to have even existed. It's the 75 learner schools with 4 teachers, and then they get 0 results. That's the school I visited, for instance, in Bilabela. They had 75 kids. They have from grade R to 12. There is no way they could have been able to produce anything. So it has nothing to do with books having arrived or not having arrived, or infrastructure. It's a school which is dysfunctional, unviable, and people just continue to take kids to schools which will not produce any different results. And that's why one of the priorities to rationalize, but also to help those schools that are dysfunctional to become more functional, where the head or the senior management is unable to run the school adequately, because you can teach kids under the tree. If you have a good teacher, you have the adequate resources, that school is bound to succeed. So infrastructure is not always the only factor that schools are not functional. It's leadership, it's management, but also basically the functionality of the school. If it's dysfunctional, it will not be functional. It doesn't matter how much you try. And that's why we keep on making sure that we visit them, we diagnose what the results are, then we come with the responses. But that is mainly the responsibility of provinces. So what I do is to monitor, get the reports, and really say if their interventions are going to be helpful or not, or if we need to help them. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. The fourth supplementary question comes from BT Matebula. Honorable Matebula. Honorable Matebula.
Chairperson.
Yes,
Member Amola Zandamele is going to ask the question. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Honorable Zandamele.
Yes, Chairperson.
Please proceed.
Okay. Am I audible, Chair?
Yeah, audible.
No, thanks, Chairperson. Yeah. Honorable Minister, year in, year out, we hear reports of how the Department of Education has failed learners yet again. With these failures, sometimes leading to the loss of life, which the department never wants to take accountability for. Schools lack proper toilets and basic infrastructure. Some don't even have textbooks or proper learning material. How then do you foresee your department delivering an ICT infrastructure when it consistently fails the most basic of service delivery for schools, especially those in townships and rural areas? Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Minister.
No, Chair, members should just watch the space. I was in KZN last week in a deep rural area where they have been able to integrate in a 98-year-old school. It's an old school. They were able to integrate ICTs and reading in a very amazing manner. The members should visit schools here in the Western Cape. They have ICTs back to back. They should visit Gauteng and see the Gauteng online. So I'm not speculating about what could be done. I'm talking about what is happening. So the member must watch the space and he will rejoice with me to say the revolution has arrived and indeed our children are there, are in for good things. So Mwakatazeki member, when just look, watch and see, you'll be in awe like all of us. And I think as an activist or as a politician, you will just feel that indeed the struggle was worth it. A black child at grade 1, we are top for Zanai. And that's what we are providing. Thanks, Chair.
No, thank you very much, Minister. We'll now move on to question 93. And this question is on assistance with social welfare. This question is by DC Christians and it's directed to the Minister of Basic Education. Honorable Christian, Honorable Minister.
No, thank you very much, Chair. Yes, the question is really about assistance with social welfare. Chair, our response is that the provincial education departments work with the Department of Social Development and SASSA, referring learners who require social welfare assistance, and not only welfare assistance, but a variety of support that they need. If a child is violated, they are the first ones to assist us when we identify problems. When a child is in very difficult conditions, social development, they're the first call that goes to us. So we want to say, in addition to the school itself identifying vulnerable learners, the Department of Social Development and SASSA have been extremely helpful in assisting us there with referrals and protecting children from indeed dropping out of school, already being in complete distressful situations that could, as the member correctly say, could lead to drop out to juvenile delinquents and all sorts of social ills. But we work very close with them and they're very helpful.
Thank you very much, Minister. The first supplementary questions will come from Honorable Christians. Honorable Christians.
Honorable Chair, once again, Honorable Boshoff, because Christian's connection. Thank you. Minister, thank you for the reply, but the first step towards learner retention is definitely improved quality and access to early childhood development as an intervention to improve the literacy and numeracy. And it must be started early in the development of the child. This early childhood intervention is especially lacking in marginalized areas in South Africa. Minister, you must agree, even though it's not your department, that the Department of Social Development has consistently failed young children in the country before and during the pandemic, and has been the cause of many ECD centers closing their doors permanently, causing the dropout rate to increase significantly. The two departments, that's your department and social development, have delayed the integration of ECD from social development to basic education for several years now. Minister, can you today give us an exact timeline for the implementation and migration of ECD to basic education, as we have seen that even during the lockdown, this sector suffered tremendously because of the lack of support and direction? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister.
No, Chair, thank you very much, Chair. Chair, I can assure the member that between ourselves and social development, we're working very well and very hard to make sure that indeed between those two departments, we develop an integrated early childhood development program. Because the member is right, that early investments in many instances determine the fortunes of the child. If your foundations for learning are weak, then the entire system becomes weak. So we agreed with the member to say you can only guarantee better outcomes if you have laid a solid foundation. It's like a house. If your foundation is weak, it's going to be really experiencing problems throughout all the time. And that's why the ruling party itself, conference after conference, has insisted on making sure that we have an ECD program. At the last conference, even took the resolution to say social development must work with education, not because education is much better, because we have a bigger footprint, but internationally, ECD in most countries falls under the Department of Education. In terms of the migration plan, Chair, we're quite willing to come to the NCOP and give you full details to say between now and the end of the year in 2021, but we anticipate that the full migration would have happened not even in 2021, only in 2022, because of the disruptions that we've had with the lockdown, but just the inability to get things right because of the lockdown, as the sector ourselves as education had to withdraw to our sector and make sure that we pay attention to the phasing in of the opening of schools. On the other hand, social development also had major things to look at, questions of food, of poverty, of really helping people who were in desperate need at the time. So we have reconvened and have restarted the plan, and we will be very grateful and very happy if you can give us an opportunity to really come and give a full presentation about the migration plans that we have around social development. I fully agree with the member that it is a very important program if we are going to change the fortunes of our children in this country.
No, thank you very much. The second supplementary question comes from Honorable S.B. Lihihi. Honorable Lihihi.
Chairperson?
Yes.
Honorable Lutsuli, I will take that question.
No, thank you very much. Why don't you proceed?
Okay, ngiyabonga. Mphathiswa wezemfundo emabangeni aphansi, kuyaziwa ukuthi i-Economic Freedom Fighters iqembu elishumayela ukuthi isikole ngesikole asibe ne-social worker ezokwazi ukusiza abantwana ey'koleni nokwazi ukuhlonza izinkinga ezihlangabezana nabantwana. Kwimpendulo yakho mphathiswa uyachaza ukuthi akuzona nje kuphela iy'nkinga ze-social service ey'dingalayo, kepha sithwana nabantwana abanyukubezekile abadinga lama-social worker ey'kolweni. Yini umnyango wakho engase ukwenza ukuqinisekisa ukuthi isikole ngasikole siyawathwala ama-social worker, ikakhulukazi iy'kole ey'semalokishini ney'kole ey'semaphandleni? Ngiyabonga.
Honorable Minister.
Umbono wami uthi yebo isikole nesikole siyadinga ama-services, hayi social worker yodwa. ama-services e-social development ngoba iy'dingo ze-social services ziningi. Ezinye iy'dingo ezifuna ama-social workers aya-specialize. Okunye abantwana abafuna i-educational psychology, okunye ufuna i-social worker esebenza nabantwana abahlukumeziwe, okunye isikolo sidinga i-psychologist esebenza ngendlela ethize. So ngendlela ama-province asebenza ngakhona kwi-district ne-district kukhona i-team, angazi ngibizani i-team, but there is a team esebenza kwi-district ezosebenzisana nezikolo ngokuya ngezidingo zayo. So masobeka i-social worker eyodwa, kufana nokuthi ubeka udokotela oyedwa wenza nje i-example. So mayiphethwe ikhanda ayikho i-doctor yamehlo or ayikho i-doctor wezindlebe, ayikho i-doctor wamadolo. So mabekwi-team bayakwazi basizane at a second level, bakwazi ukusiza izikolo. So angivumi ukuthi i-social work eyodwa ingaze ikwazi ukusiza isikolo ngezidingo zayo zonke zama-psychosocial services. Kungakho okunye sesidinga nama-NGOs aspecialize kwindlela ezithize otake back abakwazi ukusebenzisana abantwana abahlukumeziwe. It's a specialized area. Size kuma-NGOs masithatha ama-social work wethu awanelanga. Okunye siye kuma-NGOs abo-family, abo-FAMSA, if mhlambe inkinga kwi-family kuya mhlambe ukuhlala komntana ekhaya. So kudingeka a very holistic team to help a school, not an individual social worker. Ngiyabonga.
No, Sir Minister. The third supplementary question, Honorable A.B. Klute. Honorable Klute.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Minister. There's much more to the problem than only part of the problem. How should learners and even teachers be able to do their work if there is no running water and electricity? And I'm going to put it this way. Poor service delivery is an equalizer, Minister. Recently, residents across Machabeng municipality experienced both electricity and water outage, the latter being a result of debt owed to city being water. And let me put it again, everyone in Machabeng was affected. Minister, not just a few. And as a cabinet member and senior member of the ANC, you need to attend to this. How should those learners continue to do their work if the local authorities can't even ensure basic services? So put differently, Minister, how concerned are you that service delivery affects our learners?
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister.
I'm obviously concerned when our learners are not able to access the basic needs. So that's an obvious one. So it's not even there to be ready to be debated. It's very concerning because the member is right, it does affect learning and teaching. But what we can do is that we will stop life and say in Machabeng there's no water, therefore we close doors. We're going to do everything in our power to make sure that whilst dealing with all the difficulties, our children's education is protected because the Constitution, education is an inalienable right. And that's why what we do, we bring water tanks, we put VIP toilets, we even dig pit holes to make sure that life continues because it has to continue even in the face of most severe difficulties. And I'm sure people who've never lived through difficulties would think that they will die if they can see what sometimes people are subjected to, which is not what we obviously are happy about. But what we know, that education is an inalienable right, under any circumstances, it cannot be denied our children. And that's why we'll do anything possible, portable water, portable toilets, even trees, anything else to make sure that they go to school. So we're concerned, but we'll not stop living because there are difficulties. And we won't stop teaching because there are difficulties. We'll continue teaching them under those conditions because education is more important than anything else that we can give them as a nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The fourth and last supplementary question comes from Honorable M. Nchabele. Honorable Nchabele.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, for the answer to the question. Has there been a significant number of kids that have not returned since the lockdown?
Oh, Can I
Honorable
answer?
Minister, yes, please proceed.
Yeah, remember, we're monitoring quite closely the return of learners to schools. In the beginning, when we were opening schools, we had quite up to 20% of learners that had not returned. But from September, we've seen them trickling in, where in most instances, you will find that we're up to, at matric level, we're up to 98% of return. So we didn't have too much of a problem because we could account for some of the learners that were not there. They've been caught up in difficulties of either unplanned and unintended pregnancies. So at least those we could account for the missing percentage in your matric. With the internal grades, our estimation from the collection of records that we can account for almost 10%. And in a sector as big as ours, 10% could translate to about 1.4 million, which is a big number. But it could be, and that's what we read, because we're following up. It could be that most parents had promised, had threatened that they will go to not your independent schools, but your homeschooling. And because I think of the challenges around homeschooling, we didn't witness lots of registration of parents taking to homeschooling. It could be that some parents have already decided that they're going to wait for next year. But we are sure that as we write, and the other thing which has been difficult is the timetable that we're using, because kids come this week, next week, they're not coming. In other instances, they have to rotate. They come Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it's another class. So even then, it's been quite difficult to monitor. But I can say, Chair, that indeed, we estimate that between grade 1s and grade 11, there's 10% of learners that we cannot account for. It could be that they are waiting to re-register. They thought that after waiting for too long, they would have lost a lot of days, therefore they'll just repeat a grade. Or, as I say, perhaps parents are homeschooling on their own, we're not sure. We will have a definite number, which we can also share with members of parliament now when we write exams, because for exams, we have, everybody has to present themselves. So that's when we'll be able to give you a definite statistics, but there are learners that we can account for, remember, especially in the internal grades, not grade 12.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. The next question to the Minister, which is the last question to the Minister, is a question on challenges in the education system. This is question number 101 is by Honorable Morentia Gillian, and is directed to the Minister of Education. Honorable Minister.
No, thank you very much, Chair. And the response is that in terms of just levels of provisioning or the norms and standards, the average learner-educator ratio is around 32:1, that 32 learners to 1 teacher. And this is far below the ratio of 35:1 for primary schools. Because what has really happened is that despite the fact that we had difficulties even before the lockdown, we're experiencing more difficulties with the need for social distancing that we need to do. In some instances, we have to break classes into 2, where when we had a class of 45, we can only accommodate 20, there's 20. So if there were 45 in a class, there's a 5 hanging loose. But there are other factors also which have been creating problems, which is also the space. So that even if you could bring substitute teachers, you won't have spaces for them to teach in. So therefore, you just are forced to rotate. But the other things also, it's subject streaming at schools, which actually can create larger classes where you find subjects like languages, you find that classes are bigger. So in terms of the supply, on average, we produce 23,000 new teachers annually as compared to 18,000 that is demanded by educators. As a result, as a sector, we experience distributional supply challenges, which continue to be the shortages in certain subjects. But the main issue now currently affecting us, it's really your teacher supply, it's your space. And that's why it's a sector, we have 3 programs that we're looking at to assist us, which are a CD to help to get us to help provinces, because infrastructure is it's a provincial competency, but national has been given money to really assist provinces. The second one is safe. Again, sanitation should be a provincial competency, but again, the president has really got treasury to give us money. So we work hard to work with provinces. Provinces have their own school build programs. Others are doing well, others are struggling. As I say, as DBE, we have what we call a CD, which is really accelerated schools delivery initiative in selected provinces. We don't work in every province, but there's also your safe programs. We also work with we looking at replacing schools that, as I said, replacing schools and targeting to eradicate schools, with reducing the teacher allocation or the teacher to learner allocation, especially with the COVID-19. But the major problem is your infrastructure. I was told, Chair, that if we were to adequately provide spaces under COVID-19, we will need 100,000 classrooms, which we don't have. And that's why we have all these difficulties now, Chair, of having to get kids rotating and having the timetables rotating differently. Yeah, that's what that's how we really have been coping around the question of shortage of teachers. It's not a major problem. The major problem is inadequate school infrastructure that is really affecting us as a sector.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. The first supplementary question will come from Honorable Gillian. Honorable Gillian.
Thank you, Chairperson. And let me take the opportunity to thank the Honorable Minister for the comprehensive and honest response to this question. Minister, I am happy to hear the actual numbers that you have given us, indicating a commitment to deal with the infrastructure backlog in our schools. I believe there is a target of eradicating more than 3,000 pit latrines in schools. Will this be the last batch of pit latrines? And when will they be finally eradicated? Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Chair, in line with the budget that Treasury gave us, we were supposed to be done in the coming financial year of 2021-2022. That's what the budget says. But if you recall, 2020 was almost a wasted year because from March until June, we couldn't work. Even now, with the lockdown, under lockdown 1, we are beginning to also see problems that emanate from the lockdown. I'm told that we're running short of cement, we're running short of your roofing material. So even if we have started, the pace and the momentum is not as fast and as good as it could be, because even the construction industry is experiencing its own problems from the manufacturing side of things. So the plan was to really complete by 2021-2022, but I doubt that with the 6 months that we've lost, we will be able to finish in 2022. We might have to go and ask for an extra year in view of the challenges that were brought by lockdown, but current ongoing challenges with the availability of materials from the building sector and building environment. So the plan was for 2021-2022, but I'm not confident about it. I think the honest and the correct answer would say it should be 2023 because of the challenges that we met because of the lockdown and will continue to experience because of the problems in the industry.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. I will now move on to the question, the supplementary question, second supplementary question from Honorable S.E. Mfaela. Honorable Mfaela.
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Kaula will take care of that question.
Honorable Kaula.
Honorable Chairperson.
Oh, the elephant.
Yebo. Sakubona wemhlonishwa ngqongqoshe.
Yes, the elephant.
Kuhle ukuba nawe emva kwesikhathi eside kangaka. Thanks for the opportunity, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Minister, I just want you to address the disparities in respect of what you said. You said the official PPN is 1:32, but practically it is not so. When you go to schools, you find that in some schools 1:25, 1:30, which is much better. There are scenarios where 1:35, 1:40. Why these disparities, Honorable Minister? And also in respect of the norms and standards, there are also lots of disparities. For Natal, your national norm is 1,466 per learner. But in KwaZulu-Natal, the department pays only 955 per learner from quintiles 1 to 5. So it's quite a lot of disparities, which leave a gap that needs to be attended to, which also impacts on quality. And lastly, Honorable Minister, in all these calculations, grade R is excluded. It excludes the numbers of grade R. It starts from grade 1 upwards. And grade R is paid very less. Actually, in KwaZulu-Natal, grade R is paid at 191 Rand per learner, whereas the other grades, in respect of quintiles 1 to 3, it's 955. Now, there are lots of disparities. Even in the allocation of the PPN, grade R is not part of this school community. It's another calculation altogether. So, Minister, can you please tell us when are you going to attend to these disparities which impact on quality? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable Minister.
No, thank you very much, Chair. First, in terms of the learner to teacher ratio, he's quite correct that there are privileged schools where school governing bodies are able to reduce the class size by having what we call school governing posts. They do it in the township where they feel that 1:35, which is the standard number, is not good for them. And then they supplement what government gives them to create more posts. But in some instances, as I said in the earlier question, our biggest problem is infrastructure. So you might find that we have, yes, the right size number of teachers in terms of your learner to teacher ratio, but we find that there are inadequate classrooms for us to break children into different classes. Infrastructure comes back again as a problem. The other thing about the PPA, the monies that we give to school per learner, and I think members are comparing your urban schools to rural provinces. What will happen, government in terms of the financial system, it funds per head. So if there are 1 million children in a province, they give you money for 1 million children. And then provinces have to budget in terms of how they break that. So there's no extra money that will come beyond how FFC would have calculated it. Provinces like Gauteng and the Western Cape will have an advantage of having money. That's why they can keep with the norms and standards, because they will have a good number of your fee-paying schools where they are able to give just 100 rands or 145 per learner, and therefore are able to shift the money to poor schools. Whereas poor provinces, which are predominantly rural, they are not able to have extra money that comes from fee-paying schools to give to poor schools. That's why you find that sometimes they're unable to balance the books. It's not lack of care, but it's really trying to live within the means that they have. Grade R, the member is right. And that's why when we bring the Bella bill to yourselves, for the first time, we are adding grade R as part of basic education. All along, we're not getting a budget for grade R because grade R up to now, it's not part of basic education. So we're not getting money from Treasury for that. So this process of an integrated ECD program is going to help us also to ensure that Treasury begins to give the sector money for a grade R, which legally up to now, it is an arrangement that we have as basic education, but it's not catered for in terms of the budget for basic education, because legally in the Act, grade R is not part of basic education. Basic education would have started from grade R, from grade 1 to 12, and that's the money that we're getting. And he's right, it's unfortunate that we want the most qualified teachers to teach grade R, but we don't have resources to maintain that quality that we want. So we're working on it, Chair, and Babu Khawule, umcimbi esiwuphetheyo yokulungisa lonke lolu daba okhuluma ngalo.
Thank you very much. The third supplementary question comes from Honorable K. Mutsamai. Honorable Mutsamai.
Thank you, Chairperson. The Honorable Minister. If there is one thing that the COVID-19 pandemic has reduced, it is the need to build more schools so that learners are not packed into overcrowded classes. That create an environment that and room for them to teach in. I thank you, Chairperson.
Honorable Minister.
No, Chair, let me agree with Ndate Mtsamai to say COVID-19 has really sharpened the contradictions in the sector, because as I say, when we had to estimate how many classes we need more, it's 100,000, which we obviously will not be able to provide in order to have proper distancing in classrooms. It also brought to the fore the need for us to employ more teachers. But fortunately, it also taught all of us, like even now, that we can still do the work of Parliament virtually without necessarily being in the same space and be as effective as we could be. So the member is right that there are lots of lessons we're taking from the COVID-19 experience, but there are also, I think, new energy and
now good
brought to the sector. Oh.
Minister, please proceed.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. We'll then move on to the fourth supplementary question from Honorable H.S. Boshoff. Honorable Boshoff.
Thank you very much, Chair. Minister, I'm happy to see and hear that you have admitted, and it was an honest reply, that infrastructure backlog is the main cause of what is currently happening at our schools. But we also have to admit that this is not a provincial problem, but rather a national problem. We all know that government closed down all the training colleges years ago, which was the biggest mistake, as South Africa produced many top educators at teacher training institutions. We are then very much aware that South Africa has around about 25,000 schools that cater for more than 14.2 million learners across all 9 provinces, with enrollments increasing annually and teacher shortages growing. We have to try and find out why people are not wanting to become teachers. We see many learners migrating from one province to another without the money following them, placing an extra burden on the already cash-strapped provincial education departments. Infrastructure grants have also been cut, placing another burden on schools to adhere to the teacher-learner ratio. Minister, in provinces like Mpumalanga, prior to COVID-19, so you must now give me an answer, I'm going to ask you. We saw up to 100 grade 8 learners in a class and up to 72 grade 1 learners in a class. Now, if we had up to 100 prior to COVID-19, how are you managing these 100 students if you are only allowed 20 in a class because of social distancing? Then, Honourable Minister, if you are not able to handle it, and we carry on with these big classes, a teacher cannot teach. It is crowd control. And then to top it all, Minister Mbumweni, in his medium-term budget speech, stated that budgets to certain departments, of which education is one, will have to be cut to finance other struggling entities. And he also mentioned something like withholding salaries to teachers for the next 3 years. Minister, to address the shortage of teachers and enabling a more conducive teaching environment, education budgets cannot be cut and should rather be increased Will you, Minister, commit to writing to Minister Mboweni and requesting that teacher and teacher environments not bear the brunt of bad political decisions, but that education budgets as well as teacher salaries be increased? Thank you, Honourable Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister.
No, thank you very much, Chair, and thanks for the question. And just want to remind the member to say answering questions presented to me by Member of Parliament, it's a responsibility. So she doesn't even need to patronize me and say, I'm asking you a question, you'll have to answer. Just feel very condescending and very patronizing. So I'm here to answer questions as part of my obligation, not because you are instructing me to answer. It's my responsibility.
Thank you so much, Minister. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, so that you don't condescend and patronize me. I just think it's a problem.
It's not
So
condescending or patronizing.
No, you're
Yeah,
patronizing.
honourable members, if we can just stop dialoguing. Let's not have a dialogue, but let's have the responses to the questions.
So
let's pose the questions and the responses.
And in terms of infrastructure, we've never hidden it. Every time we give honest reports, the member can't tell me anything about infrastructure and challenges which I don't know. I meet every second month with MECs, and infrastructure is part of our agenda. So I know all the things you're talking about. So it's not as if because we visited Mpumalanga, then you already have a bigger report. I know it. And we've been admitting, and I've even said repeatedly here, that infrastructure continues to be an albatross to the system, and that's why we're putting all energies behind it. In terms of budgets moving with learners, the member will remember that budgets are a 3-year cycle. So if the budget has been decided in this MTF, you can't change every year to say 100 kids have gone, therefore the money follows them. So we are guided by the budgeting cycle of the department of government to do that. That I will write to the colleague again. I answer questions respectfully, but I also don't take instructions from members to say, now you write. Again, is this patronizing of thinking that you can tell people what to do when you don't even have the right and the power to tell them what to do. So I will do what I have to do with a colleague when the need arises, guided by the cabinet and what the needs are. In terms of social distancing, again, the member is out of touch. We are already in schools. We are complying with the regulations. There are no learners who are 100. That's why we have had to change our timetabling. That there's rotational where kids, unfortunately, will come this week. Group A comes this week, Group B comes next week. In some instances, some provinces have decided to platoon, that other learners come early in the morning, others come in the afternoon, to deal and to cope with the big numbers that are there. So there are no classes that are above 20 or beyond the social distances, because we will not be allowed by law to be able to really bring more than 100 learners in one classroom. It's not allowed, let alone having 50 learners in one class. It's not allowed. So we're doing all these things in order to comply with the law, to make sure that the social distancing, but also to comply with the cycling of the budget and the rest of the things. The member can rest assured that's what on an ongoing basis, Chair, we are grappling with, to make sure that we give the best to our learners. We can do whatever we have to do, or we try to do whatever we can do to make sure that things work out for our children. We're as committed to our learners as she is. We're not less committed. We're as committed as she is, and therefore there's no need to patronize and condescend and send me and give me instructions. No, there's no need for it. I'm just as committed as you are.
Thank you very much, Minister. Honorable members, we have now come to the end of questions to the Minister of Basic Education. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Minister for availing herself to answer the questions. So next is, I will now hand over to the Deputy Chairperson, take us to
Very much, Chairperson. Thank you, members. Thank you, members. I think you have enough recognition now to the Honorable Minister. Thank you also from my side to Honorable Minister Mucheha. We are continuing with our program, and the next questions will be going to the higher education, science and innovation sector. I don't know, is the minister on the platform, because I do see the deputy minister, but I want to welcome the Ministry of Higher Education, and good afternoon to all the members. I want to request now that the question 102 from the Honorable Malika should be responded to, but before that, it's 5 minutes for response to question by the minister, 2 minutes for members to ask any follow-up question, and on that follow-up, 4 minutes response by minister. I just want members not to make speeches, but to ask questions. Over to the deputy, the minister or the deputy minister who is ready to respond to our questions.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'll be responding to the questions on behalf of the minister, who has apologized because of he's not well. The Minister of Higher Education, Science and Innovation requested all universities to adopt a multimodal teaching and learning approach that included, but is not limited to, online learning. The approach includes teaching and learning support through the delivery of print-based teaching and learning materials and materials on USB memory sticks. The Department of Higher Education and Training worked with all universities to develop multimodal teaching and learning plans, which were approved by the minister and funded in part through the allocation of a ring-fenced COVID-19 responsive grant, to be complemented by funding that universities could redirect from their own council-controlled budgets. All universities included the allocation of data to students in their plans, and on average, over 90% of undergraduates students have been receiving data for teaching and learning purposes, and over the past months. Many universities also included the acquisition of laptops for students in their plans, and to date, the latest university reports show that on average, 72% of university students indicated they needed a device and have been supported to obtain one. The remaining students may be supported to acquire devices through the NSFAS-led process. The ministry and department also negotiated with mobile network operators for teaching and learning sites of universities to be zero-rated, thereby enabling students to access them without any data costs, as well as significantly reduced data packages for students to be supplied through their universities. This enabled high level of digital access for students through laptops, tablets, and smartphones. It is, however, recognized that some students, and particularly poor students, may be living in environments which are not conducive to effective online learning. Universities prioritize these students for return back to campus as lockdown alert levels allowed, and catch-up programs are being implemented to support the students to successfully complete their teaching and learning program. That's the end of the response, Honorable Chair.
Can we have any follow-up question, Honorable Malika?
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson, and thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister, for the reply. I want to check, in the event that students fail as a result of this disruption caused by COVID-19 pandemic, will that department assist universities to build system geared to avoid academic and financial exclusions? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. Over to you, Honorable DM.
Thank you for that follow-up question, Honorable Malika. I must say that we have done everything in our power to ensure that all students receive the necessary support before they sit for their examination. The reports that we have been receiving in our visits to institutions indicate that actually a lot of students were participating in the online platforms that universities have developed, but also in the catch-up programs And we must affirm that our intention is to ensure that all students who have put in the academic work and also have, ensured that they prepare sufficiently for their examinations should be able to, to pass. Those students who felt strongly that their academic year has been severely affected, those students, most of them, well, some of them have deregistered and will be registering next year. We are confident of the results for next year, and whichever students may be facing challenge for the academic year 2021 will receive the necessary support that they require for them to further their studies from the universities, but also from the department.
The next follow-up question will be asked by Honorable Baha.
Thank you, Deputy Chair, and thank you, DM, for your reply. I think my question is not far off from what Honorable Malika has tried to inquire about. I think that DM, some learners and students have chosen to stay at home because of the challenges that the pandemic has kind of put them under, to an extent that some have not gone back to school. But my main question is, what is the department doing to try and assist those who are at home without any kind of hope for intervention from the government due to COVID-19? Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Honorable DM.
Well, like I said, Honorable Chair and Honorable Bocha, that we have put in resources to ensure that every student is supported and that no student is left behind. And this, as I said, included sending them materials, supporting them with devices and all of that. But I think what's also important is that I want to use this opportunity to make a special plea to those students who are still at home, who do not have device, who do not have connectivity, or who do not have data, to inquire with their universities, because those students were part of those who were prioritized to return back to campus so that they get the necessary support at campus. So I really want us to, use this opportunity to make that call to those students, and in that way, they will be able to get the necessary support that they require, for them to be able to complete the academic year 2020.
Thank you, Honorable DM. Honorable Klute, ABC.
Thank you, Chairperson. Die Noord-Kaap is mooi groen, hè?
Inderdaad.
Inderdaad. Thank you, Chair. Ek wil terugkom na, I want to get back to the whole issue of disadvantaged families and whose reality does not accord to what we've seen. And let's start off by saying COVID has had an immense impact on everyone. But I had an interesting discussion earlier this year with a student, almost a straight A student, and all she has ever wanted to have done in her whole life was to study medicine and become a doctor. But she knows she won't be able to get admission for studying medicine because of the color of her skin. Now, that's also being disadvantaged. Now, to the Deputy Minister, I would like to ask if she was able to stand here today and ask you, why am I being denied the opportunity to study medicine at a university on the basis of the color of my skin? What would your answer be to her?
Honorable DM.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Although this is a completely new question, I'm still going to respond to it. I must emphasize that there are historical issues that we're trying to address, and those historical issues include the fact that the majority of people in this country were mainly Black people, were systematically excluded by the apartheid system through policies that disallowed them to study certain professions in universities. And therefore, based on the number of spaces that are available, universities are encouraged to ensure that they consider historically disadvantaged individuals when they accept students in their, in the fields of medicine and generally. And we have seen an improvement over the years. Of course, in terms of the participation rates of young Black South Africans. Of course, there is still a lot that needs to be done in order to address the systematic nature in which young people in the past were ostracized and excluded from the education system under apartheid. Our intention is to ensure that we achieve equity, but I must assure every South African that in the implementation of our equity objectives and goals, we will always endeavor to ensure that there's inclusivity and that there's representativity, and that no one should be systematically excluded if there is a space for that person to go and study. But we are quite firm in ensuring that we implement policies that will help us address policies of the past, particularly in the field of medicine in many of our institutions. We have expanded by opening new universities and various academies, academies, health, medicine and health academies, whose intention is to try and increase the number of sports that are available. And we believe that into the future, there may not necessarily be a need for this kind of policies because we would have been able to achieve total equity ultimately.
Thank you, Honorable DM. Honorable Zandamela, you will be the last one to ask the follow-up. What's happening? Honorable Zandamela.
No, thanks, Deputy Chairperson. Deputy Minister, COVID-19 had devastating effects on a lot of aspects of the lives of the students, from poor families, from inability to learn, no access to online tools, and increased financial burden and to those parents who lost their jobs. What support and mechanisms has the department put in place, if there's any, to identify and support these students in order to ensure that they stay in school and not drop out as the result of these setbacks? Thank you, Deputy Chairperson.
Honorable DM.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and also to Honorable Zandamela. Firstly, we have, the Minister has issued regulations to guide all institutions to be able to negotiate with students who are unable to pay, either for their accommodation or tuition, and for them to justify why they are unable to pay, particularly those students who are not covered by the National Student Financial Aid Scheme. Secondly, the National Student Financial Aid Scheme has made commitments to cover the extension of the academic year by giving allowances to students, which will include their stay on campus and also other allowances that those students, that are due to those students, in those universities and TVET colleges whose academic year would be extended beyond, beyond the year 2020. Some universities will be closing around February, March. So the National Student Financial Aid Scheme are finalizing negotiations with Treasury in order to ensure that all of that, is covered. So I want to encourage parents who are facing difficulties not to let their students drop out, their children drop out, but to approach universities in order to make arrangements so that they are able to pay, for the tuition fees and all other costs for the education of their children.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. We now come to question 95, asked by Honorable DC Christians. You may respond.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. The National Student Financial Aid Scheme has informed the department that there was no external interference in the procurement process in relation to the initial laptop tender. NSFAS categorically denies any allegations of external supply chain interference in the laptop procurement process. A comprehensive report was received from NSFAS on the procurement process, followed in relation to the cancellation of the initial laptop tender. This report has also been submitted to the Portfolio Committee on Higher Education, Science and Technology. And NSFAS has reported that no staff member was involved in any allegation in relation to the cancellation of the laptop tender. And NSFAS categorically denies any allegation of staff members or any other party's involvement in the cancellation of the laptop tender. The above mentioned report provides the details of the end-to-end procurement process of the laptop tender, which was cancelled on the basis that no acceptable bid was received. The tender was cancelled in accordance with Regulation 13(1)(c) of the Preferential Procurement Policy Framework Act regulations. Thank you, House Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Minister. Due to the network challenges, we will now call on Honorable Labuschagne to respond to the or to ask the follow-up question.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Chair. Honorable Deputy Minister, NSFAS has been plagued by fraud and corruption for a number of years now, and it seems that even with the extension of the administrator's contract processes are still being manipulated, and NSFAS is still in the bad state it has been before the appointment of the administrator. The concern with these attempts to interfere in the tender processes is now of even more concern, as tender processes are published and withdrawn without consultation or explanation, but you gave the explanation with reference to the regulations. Thank you for that. Minister, it is of grave concern that NSFAS has advertised the tender for the ICT system for the disbursement of student funds and then withdrew it weeks later. NSFAS cannot afford another procurement scandal. Can you, Deputy Minister, assure us that the ICT system tender process will be dealt with appropriately and above board? And furthermore, will the tender being withdrawn, can you assure students that there will not be any delay in payments of bursaries in 2021, as current systems have been plagued by system errors and delays? Thank you, Deputy Minister.
Honorable Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chairperson of the NCOP and Honorable Labuschagne. I must say, firstly, that if there are any allegations and substantiated allegations in relation to any interference or corruption or alleged fraud that relates to this particular tender, that honorable members or anybody should submit all of those, all of that evidence to the relevant authorities for further investigation. As far as we are concerned, from the report that we've received on this particular tender from the National Student Financial Aid Scheme, there has not been any irregularities. There's nothing untoward in terms of them issuing the tender, going through the process, and also withdrawing the tender. I'd like to assure the honorable member and students out there that since the appointment of the administrator by the former Minister of Higher Education in August 2018, there has been significant improvement in the disbursement of allowances and funds to students compared to the period before the appointment of the administrator. Yes, there have been challenges, particularly in TVET colleges, and also as it relates to some of the systems challenges that some of the universities have been confronted with. I have personally been going with the NSFAS administrator and the NSFAS team to some of the institutions that have been plagued by these challenges, together with the minister, to try and ensure that we resolve whatever problems and challenges that students have been confronted with as it relates to their allowances. The system may not be 100% proof, but we believe that it has been able to deliver to the majority of students in universities and in TVET colleges. And we're quite confident that with time, this system will definitely ensure that the majority of students are able to get their allowances on time and without interference to the academic program. Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. Honorable Arnolds, you've got an opportunity for a follow-up question.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson. Deputy Minister, thank you for reporting about the tender that was cancelled. But the sole purpose, Deputy Minister, of the procurement of laptops for students was that no student could be left behind in the 2020 academic year. And let me say that we can no longer stand by and see further crippling of an entity that was plagued by political interference, mismanagement, irregular spending, and lack of controls. The crisis at the National Student Financial Aid Scheme threatens the functioning of the higher education sector. Now, Minister, has there been any, and you have mentioned some, but we need to hear from you so that we don't come back and get the same mismanagement at NSFAS. What any other significant changes is there at NSFAS? Can you give us more details in terms of those changes that is there to ensure that that entity is functioning according to what it is supposed to do? Because students are struggling to get what is rightfully theirs. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Arnold. Honorable Jim.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chairperson. The ministry and the department are paying close and special attention to the National Student Financial Aid Scheme, precisely because we believe not only that it is just too big to fail, but also secondly, that it affects hundreds of thousands of students who, all that they want to do is to study and complete the academic year. And therefore, if there are any challenges that is brought to our attention by any South African, we hastily go on and try and resolve whatever the challenges are. We consistently interact with the administrator and the senior management and the National Student Financial Aid Scheme on a consistent basis to make sure that we are alert to whatever the challenges are. And I want to assure South Africans that we have made this an ultimate priority to make sure that the National Student Financial Aid Scheme does not fail. And I also want to make this plea that if there are any students out there, and we've had several inquiries which we have attended to, and that if there are any students out there or institutions which have been faced with massive non-payment of allowances to students, that the ministry and the department should be alerted together with the NSFAS, and that we will endeavor to attend to each of those cases so that students ultimately receive their allowances.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. Honorable Nchabaleng, the next follow-up question is yours. Honorable Nchabaleng. Honorable Nchabaleng not there. Is there anyone on his behalf? Did he have an issue with his connectivity? Let's continue and allow Honorable Mfayela for now.
Yes, on Madam Deputy Chairperson, I'm partly covered by the Deputy Minister's answers, but I just want to further push my question as whether the department has lodged an investigation on the normal recruitment procedures that were floated by the NSFAS administrator, and if the department has any plans of appreciation of disciplinary action. If not, why not? If so, what is relevant progress made? Given the fact that NSFAS was placed under administration in 2018 due to the mismanagement, has the department since put any mechanism in place to improve management within NSFAS? I thank you, Deputy Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Minister.
Thank you. Well, firstly, the appointment of the administrator was in itself, together with a team of experts in various fields that relates to the saving the National Student Financial Aid Scheme. So the appointment of the team and the administrator was itself an intervention as a result of the crisis that the NSFAS was facing at the time. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that as far as we are concerned, as the ministry, but the department, there has not been substantive allegations that have been brought to our attention which will warrant any form of investigation towards the administrator or towards senior managers or the team that has been appointed at the NSFAS. There has been ongoing investigations on some of the employees at the National Student Financial Aid Scheme as a result of corruption and other acts that have been committed over time. And we are confident that the systems that the team that the minister has appointed at the National Student Financial Aid Scheme is doing a good job in ensuring that the system is foolproof from corruption, fraud, and mismanagement. But we're hoping that from now onwards, with the introduction of a new CEO and management and a board, it will hopefully be smooth sailing.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. If Honorable Chabaleng is yet not there, we can continue and we will then ask you to respond to question 88 asked by Honorable S.A. Lutulu. Honorable Deputy Minister.
Yes, I'm here. I'm just looking for. Yes, thank you. The 26 universities, Honorable House Chairperson, including universities of technology, are cognizant of the need to constantly review their curricula in responding to the changing context, including the changing nature of work due to imperatives such as Fourth Industrial Revolution. In higher education, curricula are being developed that are responsive to emerging areas such as genomics, data science, artificial intelligence, robotics, nanomaterials, and other 4IR related areas. 22 universities are already offering formal program courses in Fourth Industrial Revolution technology studies, namely in blockchain, artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, robotics, and other disciplines. Furthermore, all universities are participating in research, collaboration, and sharing of ideas and knowledge on the Fourth Industrial Revolution. In our TVET colleges, much is being done to prepare for the challenges of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. The TVET curriculum, although slower to adapt to the challenges of the 4IR, are addressing the type and quality of skills required for industry. This includes pre-service training and industry experience for TVET college lecturers, moving towards specialization in new technologies and trades, and upskilling and exposure to what is practically happening in the industry. Various initiatives, and this is the second part of the question, various initiatives are already being implemented with the department and institutions such as universities, TVET colleges, and entities of the department, including sector education and training authorities. The department is also working closely with other government departments to create an enabling environment for the Fourth Industrial Revolution. For example, with the Departments of Communications and Digital Technologies, Science and Innovation, Employment and Labor, Trade and Industry, and also Basic Education. The department is continuously advocating for change in all institutions' curricula, which includes the Career Development Stakeholders Conference that is currently taking place, which is focusing on the digital divide, realities for public education and training, and youth of South Africa, with the main conference in November 2020 on career learning and management for sustainable livelihoods. Secondly, the department's 2019 research colloquium focused on the Fourth Industrial Revolution as its theme. The department's research, thirdly, the department's research program on labor market intelligence includes a research element on Fourth Industrial Revolution. And finally, a ministerial task team was established on the implication of the Fourth Industrial Revolution for post-school education and training. The task team has finalized and submitted its report and recommendations to the minister. The report envisions a PSAT system that is able to deliver a strong core of education and training program that is aligned with the changing needs of both South African society and the world of work in the context of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. The department will use the report and its recommendation to engage the sector and support it to respond appropriately to the recommendations, including through a curriculum response.
Thank you. Honorable Deputy Minister. Honorable Lutuli, do you have any follow-up question?
Ngibonge Sekela Sihlalo and DM siyaqonda ukuthi umnyango wezemfundo emabangeni aphansi uyahluleka ukubambisana nomnyango wakho. Sikusho lokho ngenxa yokuthi izikole zethu emaphandleni nasemalokishini azikakwazi ukuthi zithole insiza kusebenza ezifana nama-computer labs ukuze kuthi umntwana mangabe efike emazingeni ebanga liphezulu ebe enalo ulwazi oluncane lokwazi ukusebenzisa ama-computer. So umbuzo wethu kuwena Sekela ukuthi yini eniyenzayo ukuthi nikwazi ukusebenzisana nomnyango wezemfundo emabanga aphansi ukuthi kuthi lo mbono eninawo especially kule 4th industrial revolution ukuthi abantwana beqambe befika emabangeni aphezulu bebe benalo ulwazi ukuze bakwazi ukuthi bakwazi ukusebenzisana nanokuthi bakwazi ukufikelela kahle ekusebenziseni iy'nsiza lezi eninazo noma mhlawumbe nisebenza nodwa nje anikwazi ukusebenzisana nomnyango wezemfundo zamabanga aphansi ngoba phela udaba liqala phansi ukuthi qambe kufika phezulu kufanele umuntu ebesenalo ulwazi lokuthi yini lento esikhuluma ngayo ikakhulukazi ey'koleni zasemalokishini nasemaphandleni. Ngiyabonga.
Thank you very much, Honorable Lutuli. Over to you, Honorable Deputy Minister.
Ngiyabonga kakhulu kulo mbuzo ku Honorable Lutuli. Ngifuna ukusho ukuthi kuyimpendulo yami bese ngibonisile ukuthi siyasebenzisana nomnyango we-basic education kulo mcimbi we-4th industrial revolution. Yes, kunama challenges la sizohlangana nawo ngoba lento ye-4th industrial revolution into which we've just started as a as a country, particularly in the education sector. And sibona ukuthi umsebenzi lo siyenzayo as higher education and training futhi lo siyenza as science and innovation nokusebenzisana ne-Department of Basic Education will be able to help us to ensure that all children who are studying at basic education are exposed to the 4th industrial revolution. We may not be where we want to be, but we believe that we have the proper vision to be able to achieve that which the country intends as it relates to integrating education with the 4th industrial revolution.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. Honorable Nsube, will be the next person. Honorable Nsube.
Deputy Chairperson, I will stand in because he lost his connection. I will do the follow-up question.
Yes, Honorable Gillian, continue.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson. Thank you, Honorable Minister, Deputy Minister, for that response. I am convinced that the DM is aware that information technology and ICTs broadly are not disciplines that can be taught to students overnight. Tech economies have one thing in common. It is IT training, especially coding, obtains at an early age. My question, DM, is whether you has or would consider initiating joint programs with the Department of Basic Education with a view to streamlining training in IT and ICTs in schools at an early stage. Thank you.
Honorable Deputy Minister, you may respond.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chairperson, and also for the Honorable Member for that question. I must emphasize, as I said in my response, that we are working with the Department of Basic Education on this area of the 4th Industrial Revolution. And obviously part of the things that we might have to consider as part of working together with them is the training of facilitators and or teachers, but also in ensuring that part of the curriculum at basic education integrates this, the concept of the 4th Industrial Revolution.
The next follow-up question will be by Honorable Baha for Honorable Christians. Honorable Baha.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Chair. DM, the COVID-19 pandemic exposed exactly what is wrong with our entire education system, from primary school to higher education. The truth is that higher education is battling to fully implement and roll out the fourth industrial revolution in institutions of higher learning. Now, the reason why so many people in the country lost their jobs during the lockdown was because education has not bridged the boundaries between physical, digital, and biological worlds. In fact, the country still battles with the basic internet availability and speed. DM, what lessons has your department learned from the pandemic to fast track the implementation of fourth industrial revolution? And how will you be making any adjustments to ensure that these weaknesses are resolved? Thank you, Deputy Chair.
Baha, Honorable Deputy Minister, you may respond.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chair, and also to Honorable Baha. In my response, I've already indicated that all our universities and universities of technology are integrating fourth industrial revolution as part of their curriculum changes, and that we are doing our utmost best to ensure that also this is integrated at the level of the TVET colleges curriculum. We have, I agree with you, Honorable Baha, that as a country, we have been exposed in terms of the COVID-19, that certain challenges, which have always been there, even pre-COVID-19, were laid to bear. And this has obviously called on agency, and that is why the minister will be looking at the report from the task team that we have received on some of the interventions that we need to do agently. But we also believe that working together with, as a whole as government, but with specific departments and the private sector, we should be able to deal with issues around internet rollout, and a whole range of other interventions, which will necessitate the integration of the fourth industrial revolution into people's lives. So this is one thing that we've really made, a major priority, and that we'll be working on. We believe that the focus of many of our universities, into jobs of the future is one of the things that will help us as a country to be able to transcend some of the challenges that we were confronted with during the COVID-19 pandemic period. And we hope that all of this will also extend to our TVET colleges and some of the training that are being provided by the Sector Education and Training Authority. Resources are going to be a major challenge. And we believe that if this remains a priority, the commitment of our government will be to make sure that we dedicate resources towards the rollout of the fourth industrial revolution into all facets of our society and of our lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. Honorable F. Titoe, your follow-up question.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Deputy Minister, we take note of all the learning institutions that currently offer specialized courses. But seeing all the connectivity, electronics, telecommunications, and computer challenges that we have been experiencing during the COVID period, and even now during this meeting, would the Minister say that South Africa is on the same level as the first world countries and that we are ready to compete in the fourth industrial revolution arena?
Honorable Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much for that question, and thank you, Deputy Chairperson. Our approach as a country and as government is to ensure that we're able to meet the basic needs of our people using the fourth industrial revolution. And I think that we need to demystify the approach that is up there, that fourth industrial revolution is about some grand innovations and designs, and that it will be of no use and of no meaning if we begin to benchmark ourselves only with first world or developed countries who may not have the conditions which we have in our country. We believe that a successful fourth industrial revolution strategy will have to address basic issues such as education, health, and issues related to that, security, and so forth. So that's the kind of approach which we're dealing with. So whether this will enable us to compete with the first world countries, or that countries within the same economic range as South Africa, that we're able to compete with those countries, that's something else. But as long as our implementation and rollout of the fourth industrial revolution reaches each and every home in this country, we believe that we would have been able to do our work as government. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. You may now respond to question 91 as asked by Honorable A.B. Kluter.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chairperson. The HEHA Commission, which was the commission of inquiry that was appointed by former President Jacob Zuma in August 2017, made a number of recommendations to the government about the sustainable funding of higher education and training. The commission did explore in part the use of public invested funds in providing funding for students in higher education and training, which is universities, TVET colleges, and community education and training colleges. At the time, government's response to the report of the HEHA Commission was to introduce significant additional funding to support students from poor and working class backgrounds in public universities and TVET colleges through the introduction of a phase-in of a new fully subsidized bursary scheme. Despite the significant additional funding, it is acknowledged that there are categories of students who struggle to access funding for higher education and are not covered by the bursary scheme. This includes students in the so-called missing middle, those who do not qualify for support from the National Student Financial Aid Scheme and are unable to afford bank loans, and also postgraduate students. The department, in consultation with National Treasury and the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, believes that it is necessary to revisit the findings of the HEHA Commission in order to find ways to address the funding needs in the post-school education and training system. This could include an examination of the feasibility of various possible funding sources, including pension funds, as raised by the question from Honorable Kluter. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable DM. Honorable Kluter, do you have any follow-up?
Yes, thank you, Chairperson. This question also relates to the discussion document named Economic Reconstruction, endorsed by the ANC and its alliance partners. So it outlines inter alia the use of pension funds to rebuild the economy. The document was also verified by CUSATU. Now, the minister earlier this year indicated that pensions should even be used to provide financial assistance to needy students. That's what the Deputy Minister just said now. So he stated that pensions could be used to finance the missing middle students. It appears now that the Deputy Minister is actually also speaking in that direction, that it is being considered. Now, Deputy Minister, our economy is under pressure. Minister Mboweni did not beat around the bush about this. Given state capture, AG reports of our government institutions, and yes, even the Transnet Pension Fund, that was a disgrace for the ANC. Do you honestly believe that South Africans should trust the government with our pension funds?
Honorable Deputy Minister.
Well, the government, whom I am speaking on behalf of and representing here and responding to questions, has no discussion document yet that relates to the kind of interventions that needs to be made as it relates to the resolving those students who are not necessarily covered by the National Student Financial Aid Scheme. And I think as and when we finalize our approach as government, ministry, and the Department of Higher Education and Training, we will issue all of that for public discussions. What I did say in my original response, Honorable Deputy Chair, is that we are obviously examining various feasible ways, of funding sources, and if all of the if part of those sources may include pension funds, then let it be. Some of the things which are funded by pension funds are extremely ridiculous, and we believe that if pension funds are going to be redirected to the development of the human resource of our country by funding students, needy students in particular, whose parents, by the way, are contributing to this pension funds, then we don't see anything wrong with that. So all I'm saying is, we've not finalized our thoughts in this particular matter, and if we do, we will open that for discussions. And I believe that all South Africans want to contribute towards the education of their children, and if it includes them contributing through that, through their pension funds, then let it be.
Thank you, Honorable DM. Honorable Baha, you can continue.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. DM, during a webinar last week, the NSFAS administrator indicated that bursary applications for the next academic year were higher than usual, as some more people or learners have lost their jobs due to the impact of COVID-19 and the lockdown. The National Financial Aid Scheme is experiencing an increased demand for funding. 400,000 students have already applied in 6 weeks until the cutoff date, according to Mr. Carlson. This is way above prior years. NSFAS had a budget of 34.5 billion this year, and many students who were previously funded by their parents are now reaching out to the scheme. How will the additional funding be sourced to accommodate these students, as well as those students who have extended their studies due to the impact of COVID-19 and lockdown? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Baha. Honorable Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Baha, and to the Deputy Chairperson. We have asked the National Student Financial Aid Scheme to make projections in of what will be required for funding students for the 2021 academic year. And I must say that we're quite hopeful that we will be or should be able to cover all the students who are deserving, who qualify, and who are in the academic year 2021 in all our universities and in our TVET colleges. It's obviously a concern why we ask them to do the projections and all of that, and we're hoping that from those projections we may be able to ensure that we fund all the students and raise whatever money that may be required.
Thank you, Honorable Jim. Honorable Arnolds, you may ask the next follow-up question.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson. Deputy Minister, there is no freedom without free, quality, decolonized education. The sustainability of freedom depends on a free, quality, decolonized educational system that does not reproduce the racist history of Black people. The post-secondary education and training capacity in South Africa presently does not respond to the quantities of aspirant students produced by the general education system. Empowering poor Black South Africans with free quality education will ensure that people have sustainable solutions to poverty. Now, your government promised in 1994 free education, and it's taken a long time in terms of what you have promised. Why are students still today not getting what they deserve? And then just another on this question, just to say, will it take another 300 years for you, because students are out there, they are struggling in terms of funding the education. So will it take another 300 years for you to implement what students are looking for? Thank you.
Honorable Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chairperson, and to the Honourable Member. We have never promised free higher education as the ANC government, not in 1994, not ever. What we have always maintained was that further education should be progressively made available. And what the government has done over the last few years as a result of the Hair Commission and the announcement made by the former president is that we have firstly converted the National Student Financial Aid loans into bursaries, meaning that students are deserving students based on the criteria that we have set are studying for free in our universities and in our TVET colleges. This constitutes, by the way, close to 90% of all the students who are studying in our TVET colleges. So meaning that more than 600,000 students in our TVET colleges are studying for free. And this is also very important, more than 60% of students who are studying in our universities are studying for free and are fully funded by our government. We remain committed to ensure that the doors of learning and teaching remains open for the majority of South Africans who are deserving, who are from families that earn less than 350,000, whose grades are good and therefore they qualify to all these institutions. What I must also emphasize is that there's a continuous engagement in our higher education, in the higher education sector, about what the concept of decolonization of higher education means. And I hope that the Honourable Member was not merely repeating slogans that are being thrown out there, and that there is or should be at least some substantive contribution in what it means.
No slogan, Minister.
About
order. Respond. Conclude, please, Honourable DM.
I was done. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Ndongeni. You are allowed now to follow up. Honourable Ndongeni.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. Thank you, Deputy Chair. Afternoon, Deputy Minister.
Good afternoon.
My question is the department has applied itself sufficiently on the implication this new funding model has on graduates whose studies were funded by NSFAS but ordinarily are unable to repay the debt? Could we possibly witness a resolve to cancel this historical debt to allow poor graduates, majority of which is Black, a debt-free future? Thank you, DM.
Thank you very much, Honourable Ndongeni. Over to you, Honourable Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Ndongeni, and also to you, Deputy Chair. The then Minister of Higher Education and Training, now Dr. Naledi Pandor, announced a reprieve of close to 1.9 billion rand, which in 2018, early 2019, whose intention was to deal with the question of the historic debts. We've also instructed institutions, to look into this matter of historic debts, but also for students to renegotiate, the payments of their study loans to or with those institutions. We want to encourage those students who have taken up loans with the National Student Financial Aid Scheme or TEFSA, who are now working and have an income, that those students must repay their debt, as is an important contribution towards the future education of many of the kids who will be coming in and joining the education sector in the coming years. Of course, for now, there's not been any solid consideration as it relates to students who owe institutions and were not necessarily covered by the National Student Financial Aid Scheme or its preceding agencies. But we believe that we must emphasize that all students who benefited through the student loans in the past should contribute, but there are those who have been exempted, particularly those students who were studying from the academic year 2016, that those their historic debt has been dealt with by the National Student Financial Aid Scheme and also by government's allocation, and also, allocation directly to, the universities.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. You may now respond to question 96 as asked by the Honorable Christians.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson of the NCOP, and also to Honorable Christians for your question. The COVID-19 pandemic has affected the department's research process inevitably. There have been delays in collecting data from institutions. For some research projects, timeframes had to be extended. Researchers have tried to overcome this by conducting interviews virtually and sending electronic surveys to institutions. The pandemic has also had a similar impact on postgraduate students undertaking research. Challenges include changes in research design and methodology. Social distancing has changed the ways in which data collection takes place, and interviews are now done via online platforms and video calls. In terms of international collaboration, shifts in national priorities by countries has affected the funding of scholarships offered by development partners. This has also affected research programs and students and staff mobility. Some research cannot be conducted via desktop. International students also had to return to their home countries, as we announced earlier in the year when universities and TVET colleges were going on early recess and ultimately a much longer recess. The sector has adjusted to working virtually. A number of events have taken place successfully over online platforms, including 3 career development service conference webinars. The National Skills Authority also hosted a 3-part webinar series titled Skills Development and the Future of Learning during and post the COVID pandemic. There has been improved attendance at virtual events compared to face-to-face or physical events. Across the sector, there are reports of the successful utilization of virtual platforms. The monitoring reports from universities show that the vast majority of students, or 96%, have been able to engage on university learning management system utilizing a variety of electronic devices. While there have been difficulties, we must admit, this work shows the potential of such platforms for future development. Universities will only be able to indicate their preliminary graduation data after the completion of the academic year, including the writing of supplementary examinations. They will submit through their Higher Education Management Information System 2020 student data submission at the end of April 2021. Universities who will be completing the academic year in March 2021 will only be able to provide graduation data later in 2021 once they've finished identifying their graduates after the completion of their final examinations and supplementary examinations. It is therefore expected that when the universities submit their final audited HEMIS data for the 2020 academic year at the end of July 2021, the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on graduation for the 2020 academic year will thereafter become clear. There are no reported dropout rates in community education and training colleges for the core of students who are registered for exit level qualifications. The department has put in place a curriculum recovery plan to support the CET college and students' readiness for examinations in November 2020. Technical and vocational education and training college students started returning in June 2020. The arrangements did not create an untenable situation that will cause students to drop. The department does not have a clear indication of dropout statistics due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Normally, in order to track the dropouts for a particular year, the department requires data from the following year through the tracking process. Using the current methodology, data from the 2021 academic year will be required to track dropouts for the 2020 academic year. Thank you, Chairperson, Deputy Chairperson.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. Honorable Nana, can you please mute your mic? And we now ask the Honorable Christians, is there any follow-up question?
Honourable Deputy Chair, I will be taking it on behalf of Honourable Christians. Thank you very much.
Continue.
Good afternoon, Deputy Minister.
Good
We know
afternoon.
that hiring has been curtailed, laboratory and field work has been interrupted, infrastructure delayed, and the flow of international students reduced, all of which will affect the ability of the country to increase its skilled workforce, but also much needed financial input for universities from private sectors and the department. In the longer term, how will universities best support remote learning to ensure that the research workforce is resilient and to ensure that the supply chain of the research and the funding is not curtailed? Finally, how will the expected financial stringency affect universities, as many students will extend their degrees and funding and will therefore also be delayed? Thank you, Honourable Deputy Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Boshoff. Honourable Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson. Firstly, I must say that, on a yearly basis, whether we have the COVID pandemic or not, we have students who, become unsuccessful in their academic project, and universities know how to deal with all of those students based on the cases as presented, and similarly TVET colleges and continuing education and training institutions. So if there's a need for a special dispensation in this particular case because of COVID-19, that could obviously probably be considered. But there are systems and mechanisms to ensure that if there are students who are unsuccessful for a particular academic year, various policies kick in place to ensure that we're able to help those students to succeed and complete their degrees. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that, if the honorable member has conducted any particular research on any particular subject, she would know that you design, your research methodology beforehand, as part of your proposal. Now, if something like COVID-19 pandemic happens and you are meant to conduct interviews or travel abroad or even travel locally, that all of those obviously are going to have an impact on the kind of research that you want to do. And I'm certain that students all over the country who are postgraduates who've been doing their postgraduate studies may have entered into discussions and negotiations with their institutions and their supervisors in terms of ensuring that they modify the way in which they want to conduct research. And as I indicated, that the sector has really geared themselves up in responding to the COVID-19 pandemic, particularly as it relates to postgraduate students. If you remember, when the minister announced the early recess, part of the students that we prioritized to remain on campus included postgraduate students, particularly those whose work is going to contribute towards COVID-19. And we've similarly, with all the other relaxation of the lockdown regulations, prioritize postgraduate students because we believe that the development and production of knowledge remains a crucial function of the university. And therefore, this required our support. Universities will have to ensure that they renegotiate whatever funding that they've had from international sponsors. And similarly, we will obviously look at the kind of work and challenges that they're confronted with. And in the same manner that we supported universities throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, we will continue to provide that support. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. The Honorable S.M. Fayela, your follow-up question will be next.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chairperson, my friend. Honorable Deputy Minister, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Honorable Deputy Minister, the graduation and the certification in most tertiary institutions has been affected by this situation. I'm not talking about certification in TVET colleges because the backlog there is historical. In some universities, graduations have not taken place. And for those students who completed their academic year in 2019, were supposed to graduate in May. Graduations did not take place. But what is bad is that they have not received their certificates, specifically UKZN. Up to now, students who are supposed to have graduated in May, they have not received their certificates. Now, the students who were supposed to have graduated in September, surely that has also impacted upon them, and the backlog is escalating. It's a very simple thing, Honorable Deputy Minister, just giving a paper to a person to say he has completed the academic year, which is, to me, it's inefficiency. And now this has affected students in a very bad way, especially those who would have wanted to secure opportunities outside the country. Most areas outside the country do not accept academic records, but they would accept certificates, not academic records. Now, what is the department going to do to deal with this mediocrity? Because it's not interference. It's a question of dealing with mediocre operation where students for the whole year are waiting for their certificates. Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Kaula. We will give to the Honorable Deputy Minister to respond.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chair and Honorable Kaula. I think we will specifically look at the case of the University of Zululand, or I think that's the university that the Honorable Member mentioned.
Correction, Honorable Deputy Chair, UKZN.
UKZN, yes. We'll specifically look at that case and what are the challenges and so forth. But what I must emphasize is that we obviously did not anticipate that we will have this kind of a situation. You know, and obviously students are required to be physically present for them to have their, you know, their qualifications given to them and all of that. And now that most, if not all, universities are fully operational, opened up and all of that, we want to encourage students to approach their universities in order for them to get their certificates and or transcripts of results so that they're able to apply for jobs or do whatever they want to do with their qualification. It's quite unfortunate, and I really sympathize with you know, hundreds of thousands of students who were supposed to graduate, as in the ceremony this year. It was quite unfortunate. The feeling of stepping on the stage and you know, be hit on your head by a professor and you are conferred a degree is such a wonderful feeling, and we really wanted all students you know, to have that kind of experience. But unfortunately, you know, this couldn't happen. I've seen a lot of innovative ways wherein students were having graduation ceremonies in their homes and taking videos and posting them on social media and so forth. You know, because they'd already bought the dresses and they couldn't do anything with them. But, you know, it's quite unfortunate that we had COVID-19 in the year that these students were graduating. Hopefully, by next year, all things will be in order and that students will have, again, with their parents and their community, have the pleasure of celebrating their graduation. I had a friend who this weekend was supposed to be you know, graduating and having a party and all of that, but unfortunately that couldn't happen. And I'm sure it's many families who are affected by this, and it's quite unfortunate, and we really sympathize with them. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister, Honorable Arnold.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson. Thank you, Deputy Chairperson. Deputy Minister. Yes, indeed, the pandemic has exposed the shortcomings of the current higher education system. And the universities and TVETs needs to pay serious attention to have educators trained and equipped with digital technology for smooth teaching learning processes. Now, in terms of the long-lasting challenges to the higher education sector, your response in terms of the sectors now, do they have the human and financial capacity to respond to these long-term challenges? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Arnold. Over to you, Honorable Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chair and Honorable Arnold. We are working overtime to make sure that the higher education sector and any institution that's related to higher education show that they've learned lessons from this process, look at some of the challenges that we're faced with throughout this pandemic, and find ways within which they can respond to this process. Our process of the annual performance plans, our process of budgeting and all of that has been restructured in such a way that it responds to the challenges posed by the pandemic. We believe that we are responding adequately to the new normal, and we will be able to ensure that we gear the country and our higher education and training system to effectively respond to some of the challenges and implement some of the lessons that we've learned in this period. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. Honorable Nchabaleng. Honorable Nchabaleng. You are very...
Deputy Minister, Deputy Chair.
Yes.
It's Honorable Ndongeni. Can I take the question?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon to you again. Thank you for your detailed response. Is appreciated. There is a universal agreement that universities and TVET colleges could anticipate a pandemic of this nature and certainly could not have prepared for it. However, the department has done tremendous well in salvaging what would otherwise have been a lost academic year. My question, whether the department working together with universities has conducted a study on the impact of COVID-19 on poor students, majority of whom live in communities whether there is poor infrastructure to accommodate virtual learning. If not, why not? If so, if yes, what are the relevant details? Thank you, TM. Thank you, Deputy Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Ndongeni. Honorable Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ndongeni and Deputy Chair. The first thing that we did as a department through the task team that was appointed by the Minister was to look at the ways in which the COVID-19 pandemic is going to affect students who particularly come from disadvantaged and rural areas. And the Minister asked the Department of Science and Innovation and some of its agencies to conduct a geospatial study in terms of issues around connectivity, devices, and all of that. Institutions themselves, together with University South Africa Forum, which is a forum of university vice chancellors, also did conduct a similar research. And our response as the department and ministry was informed by these particular studies. And that's why our intervention did not only rely on, as many people believe, investing into online learning and devices, but we also looked into possibilities and actually rolling out of connectivity, for instance, in all our TVET colleges. We looked at ways and means within which we can get those students from poor and disadvantaged communities back on campus so that they've got access to all these facilities. So it was a whole range of interventions, which was was in response of the evidence that we've received based on the various studies that we've conducted.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. Honorable Deputy Minister, you will now respond to question 104 as asked by the Honorable MN Gillian.
Thank you very much, Honorable Gillian and Deputy Chair. A number of interventions have been put into place to support students who face, 1, personal challenges, and 2, are struggling with psychosocial challenges. These interventions are implemented through Higher Health, which is an implementing agency of the Department of Higher Education and Training to provide accessible health, wellness, and psychosocial screening, testing, linkages to treatment care, and support to students facing personal health, wellness, and psychosocial challenges at university and at TVET College campus within the post-school education and training system. Higher Health addresses students' challenges relating to HIV, tuberculosis, sexually transmitted infections, sexual reproductive health rights, unplanned pregnancies, gender-based violence, mental health, alcohol and substance abuse, and gender and disability stigmatization, and as of earlier this year, COVID-19. The department also has a dedicated unit focusing on issues of support services of students in TVET colleges. This unit is responsible for overseeing the implementation and monitoring of the 2008 framework for student support services, which provides a guide to TVET colleges in integrating student support issues in a practical set of guiding principles, procedures, and strategies for the provision of an integrated student support services. Thank you.
Honorable Gillian, do you have a follow-up question?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Chairperson. Honorable DM, thank you for that answer to the question. Considering the fact that teaching and learning is generally occasioned by anxieties induced by both academic and financial pressure, even outside COVID-19, what interventions has the department put in place to ensure that these students are not excluded should they fail as a result of the lack of support in their communities?
Over to you, Honorable Deputy Minister.
Well, firstly, like I said in my response, the intention is for Higher Health, our agency, implementing agency, to give support. I went to a number of these institutions together with Higher Health, and the kind of work that is being done by Higher Health is quite impressive. And what's even more impressive is that it is students who are in the lead, with peer-to-peer education, monitoring, and all of that. But more importantly, there are professionals who are dedicated, psychologists, for instance, who are dedicated, to help support institutions who have students who've got this kind of challenges. And thirdly, the student support services in our universities and in our TVET colleges are geared and fully equipped to be able to support these particular students. And that any student who, feel that, they are anxious, they are depressed, it's all sorts of things, should be able to speak to someone at their university or TVET college who should be able to help them in this regard. And obviously, if you couldn't pass your examination precisely because of mental health related issues, there are procedures that institutions have which will be able to help those students to be able to rewrite so that they're not academically excluded. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Minister. Honorable M.S. Mulitsane, your opportunity now.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. Deputy Minister, on the 21st of April 2020, during a virtual sitting of the National Assembly and NCOP committee tasked with the higher education, together with the officials from the Ministry of Higher Education, the Deputy General for University Education at the Department of Higher Education and Training said it is possible that the end of 2020 academic year may be extended. The minister confirmed that the universities, they have extended the academic year to 2021. Now my question is, has any consideration been made as to how this extension further exacerbates the personal and psychosocial challenges of students from disadvantaged communities in as far as their NSFAS funding and psychological well-being is concerned? Thank you, Deputy Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mulitsane. Honorable Deputy Minister.
all those students who are going to be, they're firstly covered by the National Student Financial Aid Scheme, and those whose programs or institutions have extended their academic year, some of them up to March 2021, will continue to receive allowances from the National Student Financial Aid Scheme. So that's the first one. The second one is that the established support systems in universities and in TVET colleges, yes, they've got their own challenges, but they are there to provide psychosocial support for students in case they need all of that support. But even beyond that, there are a whole range of programs that government runs whose intention is to deal with the question of mental health institution. High Health is working on ensuring that there's an all-round available service for students who need psychosocial support. So it's something that we're really attending to, and thank you for that question.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. Honorable F. Tutoy.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Deputy Minister, your answers were comprehensive. I want to know what measures are in place to assist educators to identify psychosocial challenges in the learning environment, and if possible, what is the estimated expenditure per year on the assistance that is given to these learners?
Honorable Deputy Minister.
Yeah, look, I mean, you're dealing with young adults. You're dealing with young people from the ages of 17, 18, up to 25, 27. Obviously, it's not automatic that they will be able to diagnose themselves as having challenges around, mental health related issues. And therefore, the infrastructure that is available and the personnel that's available at our higher education institutions are properly equipped for them to be able to help those kind of students, friends, peers, lecturers, everyone on our campuses are encouraged to help those students who are in need. They may be depressed, they may be anxious, or any form of mental health related issues, and therefore refer them to the relevant professionals for them to get the necessary help. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. Honorable Baha, for Honorable Christians, you will be the last person.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. DM, we know that most TVET colleges and universities have student support centers where they can go for psychological and other emotional and academical assistance. However, these centers are severely constrained in terms of numbers of staff as well as suitable qualified staff. Yearly students still drop out or worse, commit suicide due to the pressure of studies and being away from home. And this indicates a lack of social and emotional support at higher learning institutions. What plans are in place to capacitate student support centers with enough as well as qualified staff members to assist learners in their time of need? Thank you, Deputy Chair, and thank you, Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Baha. Over to you, Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Baha. As I said, the student support services in our institutions have or take responsibility, in responding to mental health related issues on our campuses for students. And as and when there is a need for us to, make an intervention, obviously we would, be able to do that. We do not take the question of mental health of our students lightly. We believe that this is a serious issue. Students committing suicide and all of that on our campuses is actually a big challenge. And we're hoping that, continuously institutions and student leadership, for instance, who've got an important role to play, will consistently guide us in terms of the kind of challenges that they're confronted with and the kind of resources that are needed for these interventions to be made. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. I didn't ask a question, but I've realized that the issue of mental health, not only in the institutions, but also in society, is not really understood or not taken seriously enough. So really, the fact that there is an agency in the higher education system, it's quite commendable. It is to be mentioned, because I myself was thinking, as part of our responsibility in Parliament, how can we really assist communities to understand the issue of mental health much better? So I think there is quite a commendable action that you have taken to have an agency that is responsible to deal with issues of mental health at our campuses. And with that said, honorable delegates, let me also thank the Honorable Deputy Minister for the quite comprehensive and honest way in which he responded. And it's also really, it was very educational. Your responses was also very educational, I'm sure, for all of us as members. So we want to express our appreciation, Buti Kabafana. We want to express our appreciation and miss you in the work with the boys, that you must remember, so that we can continue that. And with that said, we want to say the business of the day is concluded, and we are going to Agenda House. Thank you very much once again to all the members and to all the ministers.
Thank you, Deputy Chair, Deputy Minister.
Thank you.
Oh, Baba Kaur. You must come more regularly, Baba Kaur. Yeah, you must come and reinforce Babu Faela, man. We want the elephants.
Kaula Sabonga.
Elephants are appreciated.
Thank you so much.
Oh, my baby. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Kaula.
Oh, baby.
Sanbonabo.
Yeah, Honorable
Kaula. Siyaphila wenze mvuzakithi. Siyaphila wenze mvuzakithi.
Wena Honorable Kaula.
Siyaphila la sinomntwana akaphinda ngena.
Yeah, bengigadile la uyiphethe kahle ngiyakubona.
Regrouping.
Thank
you, Baba Kaula. Keep well, Baba Kaula. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Once again, don't know.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Should I end the meeting or will there be a debriefing?
So I see Kanana is still waiting to join.
Liesel, I think we must check if the advocate is still on the platform.
Yes, he's there, Shada.
Okay, advocate will advise.
Okay. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, advocate.
Good afternoon, advocate.
My reception has not been stable. I don't know whether it's because of the wind or what. Is there anything that anyone would want to say? Just for the next 5 minutes.
Nothing from my side, advocate.
Anything?
Nothing from my side. Thanks, advocate.
Anything? Nothing. A time when the interpreter could hear. Yes, there was a time when I could hear the interpreters interpreting. What was the problem? Hello? Hello?
Advocate, apparently the interpreters were connected to the floor as well as the interpretation facility at the same time. And then at the time, Jason was hosting and he indicated that they should, it's from their side where they must untick the floor mic. They had then done so because we were alerted by one of the other interpreters that he could hear the Setswana interpreter on the floor. So that took a few minutes to manage to sort it out.
We still have streamer there. Are we off streaming? Huh? Hello?
I'll check, advocate. I did stop the recording, so I don't think we're still broadcasting.
Yeah, but I see streamer 5 parliament there. Okay, is there any other thing, colleagues, that you would want to say? Nothing. Nothing, am I right? Hello? Hello? Miss Boss?